Hello and welcome, everyone. We are so glad you're here. Happy Valentine's Day. Thanks for spending your Valentine's Day with us. We hope that you'll be able to go out and enjoy yourself, but wanted to pop in here and do a training on sales. And I was kind of the natural choice for that because that is my expertise. That's where I come in and support the clients here. It's been so fun to watch some of the clients talk about their success stories because I remember working with them on their offer or their price point. And truly, the success in your business is dependent on whether or not you're willing and ready and able to master the art of sales. So I wanted to kind of give you this presentation that I've put together on how to become a sales superstar. And I always like to put in the phrase heart-centered. Everything I do when it comes to sales is truly from the heart. And it doesn't mean I'm a pushover. It doesn't mean that, I give everything away. It just means that I'm really taking a stand for what I truly believe somebody needs. And sometimes there's some coaching that will come into play there where I'll show them like what I'm seeing about themselves, and I'll get into that in this presentation. But I just want you to know, who I am and where I come from. One of the best things that I learned was resisting sales is like sticking a nail in your car tire and then getting frustrated that it won't go anywhere. You need all these elements, right? Around like marketing and advertising and, maybe funnels and being online and of course video. But what is the point of doing all of that if you're going to get a bunch of leads and you're avoiding sales like the plague? So if you think sales is a 4-letter word, stay tuned. All right, so who the heck am I? I just want to share a super quick version of my story so that you know where I came from, because it wasn't corporate sales. And I think a lot of sales coaches and sales experts come from that, corporate background. My background is in teaching. I taught second grade, and my last job, I taught refugee adults how to read in English for 7 years. That was my final job. And I loved it dearly, but it just wasn't paying me enough money to live the lifestyle that I wanted. And I went in search for, what else can I do? I already had a master's degree. I didn't want to go back to school. I didn't want to get a PhD. What was my plan B? And I discovered coaching. And I got certified. And, like many of you, I invested a lot of money. And I truly got a little let down by the program itself. And that was my first inclination of somebody that was good at sales, good at selling something, but what was delivered wasn't what was promised. So fast forward a couple of years, thankfully I kept my teaching job while I entered the coaching world. And I think after spending $25,000 on my certification and being with that company for 2 years trying to make this work, I had earned $2,500 in return. So that ROI wasn't making me feel very good, and I decided to set out on a venture to learn heart-centered sales, because what I was learning in that other company was very sleazy. It was like pushy tactics that were used exactly on me, and I wasn't happy with the result. So how on earth could I then learn from them those tactics and use them on other people when I knew in my heart that it was kind of like a bunch of BS? And when I discovered that there was actually something called heart-centered sales, I was like, sign me up. Because I had spent an entire year walking around saying, I don't know crap about sales and marketing. And for those of you that know the law of attraction, you can imagine how helpful that was in my business, right? Not so much. So I really had to overcome my fear of sales. And when I got this heart-centered training, and I understood the elements that were required to have a conversation that truly spoke to the heart of my ideal clients, that's when everything shifted for me. I was able to build a 6-figure business doing what I love, and I was able to also do sales for other people and truly just step into that expertise, right? That expert status of like, okay, I've sold over $4.5 million in coaching programs. I know what I'm doing here. So for those of you who sell something that's not coaching, I want you know, you can apply these same principles in anything that you're selling. So I don't want you to listen to this and think, oh, this isn't applicable. And instead, I want you to ask yourself, how can I move this into the way I have conversations? So first of all, if you've got a fear of sales, you're resisting the very medicine that you need to get your business to be more impactful and more profitable, right? And so I have read a lot of sales books and trainings, and one of the things I agree with completely that I see all the time is the first close you have to make is to close yourself. If you don't believe in what you're offering, or if you're afraid of your price point, then you'll never sell it, right? So that's where we have to start, is your own mindset. So common fears that come up that keep you held back from making the impact that you're here to make. You might be saying, what if they think I'm pushy? If you're saying any of these things, pop that in the chat. I'm going to be able to look through the chat a little bit later. But, what if they think I'm pushy? Or, can they feel my needy energy? Right? Some of you are like, I need this sale. I need this to work. And maybe you're afraid they're going to pick up on that. And they do. They do. You might be one of those people that's like, I hate when people sell to me. So how can I possibly feel good selling to others? Right? And of course, most people say, how do I sell without being salesy? I don't want to come across salesy. And so truly, all you've got to do is learn how to sell your service with heart, with integrity, and with excitement for what you're offering people. And so a lot of times I'll talk about where a lot of this stuff comes into the mindset for women specifically, because we've been kind of judged as, bossy or pushy. And, so we've kind of clamped it down a little bit on how we might approach things. And so it's time for you to shake that stuff off, right? Because we don't want you to get stuck in a hobby. We want you to claim your business as a professional business that makes you money. And it's time right now for you to decide that you will overcome the fear of sales, right? It's time for you to earn the kind of income that you want to be earning without any guilt at all. So why do a lot of women fail at sales? So for those of the men in the room, this might be true for you too. I don't mean to leave you out, but this is what I've really found in working with a lot of women. And I know we attract a lot of women here at Inspired Living. So the first thing is that women are nurturers naturally. We like to make people feel better. That's our innate way, right? And so that's one, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit, what does that mean? But another reason why we fail, just tell you the 3 reasons up front first, is that thing of we've been told we've been pushy or bossy, or, that those things are inappropriate, right? That expressing our opinion in a profound way, might have overshadowed somebody. And so we got shot down for it, right? And a lot of women have this belief that we have to think or act like a man in order to be successful in sales. And that is because most sales programs are taught by men. And what works for men doesn't work for women, right? And so, okay, how can we shift that? So first of all, when you think about being, a nurturer, it's that element when you're on a sales conversation, if somebody is sharing their pain with you, and you're like, oh, I totally get it. I know that's so hard. Here's a fix. Here's a quick fix, right? Because we want to release the tension that we're feeling in the sales conversation. Someone's getting really upset and we're like, oh my gosh, I want to make them feel better right now, because we have this belief if we make them feel better now, they're going to see how awesome we are and they're going to hire us. And in fact, that's not the case. What happens is you break the tension. What, Carrie's been saying this week, people pay to get rid of pain. Sure, they want to be inspired, but they pay to get rid of pain. When you eliminate that feeling of pain in the sales conversation, they feel just a little bit better. And when they're feeling a little bit better, they're not inspired to take action. So it's imperative that you do not release the tension of what's going on for them during that call. You don't want to try and fix them in any way. Instead, what they're looking for is for you to show up with tough love and be honest, right? When you show up in your bold truth, that is a game changer for people. Sometimes we're the first person that said it like it is. We're not here to make everybody happy. We're here to create change, make an impact, inspire in some way, get their dream, get their transformation. And sometimes it takes us telling them, let me tell you exactly why you don't have that transformation. It's the bold truth that turns them on. So we're not fixing anything. We're pointing out the exact problem that's in their way. The thing about sales and all of business is that we have to be leaders ourselves in order to impact change. And so if you're not being a leader on the sales call, they can tell that they can steamroll you, right? And so it's truly being a leader that says what needs to be said. And you can say it in the most heartfelt way, but truly you've got to be a leader instead of a pushover. When you think about the different business models of masculine versus feminine, and again, this doesn't have to do with gender. Some of us operate very much from a masculine energy, and some of us operate from very much feminine energy. And there's no one is better than the other. It's that we need both. The masculine model is a very comparative model of business. And so when you approach sales from that comparative model, you're finding yourself saying, I'm the best, or this is, right? Like we're comparing, I'm better than others, right? We're using superlatives in some way. And there's a place for that. And then the feminine model is a more connective model. Like who can we collaborate with? Let's collaborate together and impact change. Let's create the transformation together as a team. I see you, I believe in you. We're going to bring you in and I'm going to work with you. Right? I'm not going to tell you what to do. We're going to work together to help you get there. And so you don't need to act like a man or be in that masculine energy in order to get the sale. You can show up in a feminine energy. You still need the, masculine elements, like I said, but you can certainly change the way you talk about things so that you're coming off more of yourself. Step into that feminine way and be proud of it. Don't think that you can't make a sale if you're feminine. Let's see here. Okay. Now, a lot of people get stuck on, hey, if somebody says no, then, or gives me an objection of some sort, then I'm being pushy if I push back a little bit or challenge their objection in some way. So if that's you, if you're worried about challenging someone's objection, I'm here to help you shift that mindset. So, in one of the sales books I read, Bo Bennett, and this quote I loved it. An objection is not a rejection. It's simply a request for more information. So when they're objecting, and I'm not talking about the word no, we'll get to that. But when they're objecting, if they're like, gosh, I love what you have to offer, but it's too much money, or, oh, now's not the right time, but this sounds amazing, right? Then they're simply requesting more information, like it's like they're practically asking you, how can you overcome this objection? Because I love what you're offering. And I'm stuck on how to say yes at this point. So in truth, there are usually 3 reasons why people don't buy from you. 1, they aren't interested in what you're offering. Okay. 2, they can't afford it, or they don't see the value for the price that you've set just yet. And 3, they are not sure that it will work for them, or they don't trust someone yet, whether it's you or themselves, right? So there's a lack of interest. There might be a lack of money or understanding of the value, or there's a lack of trust. So they're not sure it's going to work for them. They might not trust you. They might not trust themselves. So here's the place when you take a stand for what you believe in, when you see what's possible for your potential client, it's time for you to be the leader in this conversation and say so. Because like I said, like when you shift your own mindset around what it means to try to overcome an objection, you shift it from, ooh, what if they think I'm pushy or salesy, into, I believe in this so much and I know you need this so much that I'm going to take a stand and I'm going to fight for what I believe in. Sometimes it will be that you are the first and only person that's ever done that for them, and they will love you for it. They will have so much respect for you for it. So I know you're sitting here thinking, well, how do I overcome objections in a way that feels aligned with who I am, right? And that makes the potential buyer, potential client, feel empowered in the conversation. So the first principle I want you to understand is that the only price objection that usually comes up is that of the seller. So first, you need to be so clear on the value that you provide and the results that you're going to help create. You need to be in that energy of like, there's not a doubt in my mind, I'm going to blow your business out of the water. That's step one, right? That's that first element you have to understand. Truly, objections give you a chance to really deepen the conversation. So you don't want to give up at the first sign of no. Sometimes people want to be fought for, and you have to be willing to put in a little bit of a fight here. Now, I use that word fight with a smile on my face, right? But it's like you're making an argument for something. Like when was it a bad thing to debate something, right? It's like, I know all the talk in the world with politics and things, like some of us are so tired of having to like stand up for what we believe in, or you see somebody on the opposite side of you and you're like, what is wrong with your way of thinking? So I know that gets exhausting, but when we have compassion for like, they just don't get it yet. And I'm here to show them what they're missing. Right? Carrie said earlier, like the word BS, and I use the same thing. It's not necessarily the swear word, but the blind spots. So what are the blind spots that they have that they simply don't see what you see? That's the first step. I guess the second step, because first you have to believe in yourself. The second step is being aligned and empowered enough to be like, hey, here are the blind spots I'm seeing. So I work with a lot of coaches, and I always say the only time I recommend coaching on a sales call is during objections, because we've got to help them see that their thinking or their way of being right now is the very thing that's holding them back from what they want. So let me tell you how to break down some of these objections. So first of all, I said there are 3 reasons why people don't buy. One was they might not be interested. Okay, so this one we might not be able to overcome, but it's a good chance for you to reassess, how did you get this far in the conversation? How did you even get to make an offer to someone that simply is not interested in what you're offering? And so you want to ask yourself, like, were there any red flags or signs of disinterest before you made your offer? What I find a lot of my clients do is they might feel this energetic shift in the conversation. They may have said something that kind of set the person off a little bit, because sometimes we're pushing back a little and it might have triggered them. And it's like energetically, even if you're on the phone, you can feel the lean out. And now you can hear, Okay, so we've lost them. So what a lot of people do, especially if they're in the early stages of embracing the sales conversation, usually you've got a template, you've got questions you're going to ask. And by the way, you're going to get an amazing template when you join the Broadcast Your Brilliance program. I'm going to do a step-by-step 6 steps to yes sales training, and you get like a 9-page template on how to navigate the sales conversation. So stay tuned for that. But a lot of times they're on the template and they just push through. They keep asking questions like, okay, that triggered them. Oops, this is uncomfortable. Let me just skip it and go to the next question and the next question. But the thing is, you lost them at that question. And until you bring them back in, until you identify what happened with the lean out and make them lean back in again, you're not going to make a sale. So, were there any red flags? And if there were, if you detected the lean out, did you address that in some way? And if not, that's why we're at this conversation where they're not interested. You might be able to try to recall back to when you think they leaned out and address it at that time. But sometimes, you lost the deal. Okay, so if they say they can't afford it, all right, now this is, of course, the most common one, right? We hear it all the time. If you are ever doing any sales, this is the most common thing you hear. So the first thing is, like, you really need to center your heart. If you're somebody that needs the money, like if you're kind of in this place where you're like, I could use this sale, right? This would really boom my month here. Don't assume that your money story is their money story. That is one of the number one mistakes people make, is that they project their own money troubles onto the person they're talking to. I just made an offer the other day to somebody for $30,000, and he literally shrugged his shoulders like, yeah, okay, I love you guys. Great. Send me the contract, right? And I've spent $30,000 on my business, so I know that feeling, but I'll tell you what, I didn't shrug my shoulders and go, yeah, no problem. I needed a lot of coaxing to find that 30K, right? So never, ever project your money goop onto someone else. But the first thing we want to do is identify, is money the true objection here? Because a lot of times, especially in the United States, people use money as an excuse or a smokescreen for something else that's going on. And namely, that is fear. Because a lot of times what we're offering is change and transformation. And you know what? That's freaking scary. Right? So you think about broadcast your brilliance. We're like, we're going to put you on broadcast. Half of you might be like, oh God, right? Like maybe you're doing video for the first time this week and it scares you. And so it's so easy for us to be like, oh, nope, can't afford it, because then I get to take myself right out of the conversation and I get to revert right back to my safety comfort zone. This may not be true for all of you. For some of you, you can't afford it. Oh, it's fine. But for some of you, it's this, and again, it's not just about broadcast your brilliance. It's anytime we say we can't afford it, we remove ourselves from the conversation, and that feels comfortable. And so it's just the go-to. And it's this belief we have, yeah, we can't afford it. But in reality, sometimes you might turn around and spend an exorbitant amount of money on something else because you're not valuing yourself or your business at the same level. And so it's just a conversation that we need to get into. You can ask questions like, I'm just curious, when was the last time you invested in insert niche, whatever we're talking about, right? You can also ask, if it weren't for the money, is this something that you would want to move forward with? So depending on the response to that, you're going to know the direction of this conversation. If they're like, oh, hell yeah, I love you guys. Okay, great. So then I can say, oh, so it sounds like we've got an investment problem. Like you would love to be in this program. It's like the perfect fit for you, but you've got an investment problem. Is that what I'm hearing? Yes. Okay, great. Now we're dealing with the money objection. But if you say, if it weren't for the money, is this something you'd want to move forward with? And they're like, well, okay. Right? Now we've unearthed another objection. So the most important thing here is that you can only address one objection at the time. And so just put the money one aside if something else comes up, because probably what's going to come up is how much money they've already invested, or maybe their partner is upset with the amount of money they've invested and the lack of results they've gotten so far. Or maybe they got burned at another time and they're still making up for that. A lot of times I'll hear someone say, I'm still paying off the debt I incurred from the last mistake I made, right? Let me tell you what, I spent $25,000 on my coaching certification and I walked away 2 years later still owing that money, didn't get the results I wanted, and had to invest $15,000 more in order to learn heart-centered sales. If I stayed stuck in the $25,000 disappointment, I wouldn't be where I am today. Absolutely not, because here I am showing up as a sales expert. And when I walked in those doors and paid that $15,000, I was nothing more than a school teacher who didn't know crap about sales and marketing. That was my identity. Right? So sometimes we have to have these conversations with our potential clients. We tell stories of why that story that they're telling themselves is not serving them in any way. To expect yourself to earn back all the money that you invested before being willing to invest again sounds like a college freshman refusing to go to sophomore year until they pay off their freshman year debt. And yet, in our society, we do not ask most college freshmen to do that. So why are we asking ourselves to do that in our business? So these are real conversations I have with people about the money objection when things like that come up. Of course, that's niche specific because I deal with business owners. You'll have to come up with your own way to address that objection. But what's a story or an example of them, it's like, oh, well, I invested in a weight loss program and I haven't lost all the weight yet, so I'm not going to invest again until I do. Okay, maybe you still need some help. Why do we have to get to our initial goal before we're willing to say yes to ourselves moving forward? What a way to slow us down, right? So when you wrangle in the other objections and they're back on the same page with you, now, I'm curious, now that we had this conversation, if it weren't for the money, is this something you'd want to move forward with? So now we're putting the money back into the ring and they're like, yeah, I can see what you mean, but I still can't afford it. Okay, great. And now we tackle that objection. So there's lots of ways that you can do it. I think storytelling is the best. And I do firmly believe with heart-centered sales, when someone is a firm, like, I have no more access to credit, I'm in, a ton of debt and they're like, I can literally only operate from cash, then I believe them. I really do. I'm not here to try to convince somebody of something that they simply can't have access to yet. And I try to find them a solution in which I can support them in another way, right? We call that a downsell of some sort. So it's not about pushing people who are already in an exorbitant amount of debt and don't have any room on their credit profile to invite more in. But I just know from my experience, and again, it's my own experience, but I have excellent credit even though I've borrowed a ton. And even though I'm paying down some personal loans from that 30K coach I told you about, all right, I'm still paying down credit cards of other things that I incurred. I'm not afraid to take out another loan or get another credit card to do what I need to do. I'm just not going to act like out of fear from borrowing again. And I do have access to more credit and I know it. And so that's who I'm talking to when people are afraid to invest more, but they know they have access to more. It's like, again, I'm not saying you have to max yourself out, but are you saying no to the very thing that would help you get to that next level? Then are you willing to bet on yourself and go a little bit more into debt, knowing it's gonna turn around, right? Looking at the ROI, looking at that long-term investment that you're making for yourself. When I invested the $30,000 in that coach, I didn't have $30,000. I certainly wasn't going to put that on a credit card. And so I went to nerdwallet.com. I looked into personal loans and I ended up getting two to amount to $30,000 so I could pay her in full. I got the full pay bonuses. I didn't have to worry about her payment plan, which was $3,000 a month. And instead, I had a payment plan on the loans that was $1,000 a month, and that made it easier for me. So I just became resourceful. So those are stories that I like to say to people when they say they can't afford it, and just see if we can find the money. A lot of times, you'd be so surprised. People say they can't afford it, but they're sitting on a 401k. Or they say they can't afford it because they've got 6 months or more worth of savings in their savings account because they're smart people that put things away for, a rainy day, right? So there is money in places they're afraid to touch it. So that's how I dive into that one. All right, so let's move on to another objection. If they are not certain they'll get the results, you might hear them say, I don't know if this program's going to work for me. Or you might hear them say, I've already done a program a lot like this, and so I don't really need it. And it's like, well, if you're still listening to the marketing of the very thing that you say that you bought and learned, you haven't learned it yet. Because if you mastered it, you wouldn't be tuned into marketing to solve that problem. Does that make sense? And so just because we signed up for a program, I may have signed up to learn about social media a couple of years ago, but I'm still going to want to work with Bridget Brady because she's amazing. And I certainly don't know all there is to know about social media. And that's why I'm still looking at marketing that talks about learn social media because I'm still learning. So if they aren't certain they're going to get the results, we've got three things going on. They may not believe you, which means you've got a trust issue that you can repair. It may be that they don't trust you. It may be that they don't trust themselves, right? So as I brought up earlier in the money conversation, a lot of times people feel frustrated with themselves because they keep signing up for these programs and they're not finishing them. They're not doing the work. They're not showing up. They get, fear just gets right in their way. It's this block. It's this blind spot they're not even aware of. They're like, I don't know what is wrong with me. They're blaming themselves. They're in this shame stage. And so the way I address these objections is I like to ask somebody, gosh, it seems like you're holding yourself hostage on a decision that you made however many years ago, whatever length of time, could have been 6 months ago. I'm curious, are you the same person that you were then? Because I know myself, I've made some grand mistakes. I've made some mistakes in life. I've made some mistakes in business, in my investment choices. I wasn't as discerning, right? That first program I paid $25,000 for, I didn't know how to discern anything. I was greener than green in this industry. And as from that experience, I got that lesson. Oh, now I know how to look for a mentor that I'm more aligned with. Now I know how to look at their marketing or how to interact with their sales team and see if I even like these people. Are they people I want to hang out with? Right? And so I'm encouraging you to build up the trust that's lacking here, whether it's in themselves or in you. But a lot of times I help people see that the person they were when they made that decision is not the same person they are today. And it's because they learned from that experience that they could give themselves permission to let it go and to stop carrying the weight of that story around like it's some badge of honor. Like my badge of honor was, I don't know crap about sales and marketing. That doesn't serve me. I had to let that story go. And so if it's a trust factor, a lot of times, like if it's a trust factor within a relationship, I'll often hear, I work with a lot of women, so they'll often say, my husband is tired of supporting my quote unquote hobby. And then you can just see even if I'm on the phone, I can feel their shoulders drop because that's not how they see it. Right. And so it's what needs to be said to repair the lack of trust that's coming up for you in your relationship right now? How can you have this conversation with your partner, right, where you can own the parts of yourself that didn't show up quite the way you thought you would? You can own that part of yourself and you can say, this is different. It's a different mentor, it's a different program, and I'm a different person. And then the best thing I like to have partners ask their spouse is, do you believe in me? Carrie talked yesterday about don't ask for permission, even though it's shared money. It's, I totally get that, but it's not asking for permission because a lot of times, and again, this is, the masculine and feminine, but a lot of times when a woman shows up and says, oh, honey, what do you think? What do you think about this program? I'm kind of excited about it, right? That energy is I think I kind of want to do it and I want you to tell me, go for it. And the masculine energy wants to keep his loved one safe and says no, because it's this energy. What do you think? But if you're like, this is what I want to do. Like, do you believe in me? Because this is the program for me. Like, I am excited about this. This is what I've been looking for. This program has everything that everything else didn't have. And now I'm discerning enough to know this is it. Do you believe in me? Right? Different conversation completely. So what I like to do is support the person I'm on the phone with. If they have to talk to their spouse, I'll say, do you want to practice that a little bit right now? What are some things that you want to say? And I kind of coach them on how to have the conversation from the empowered place and not the what do you think place. And the way I do that is by getting them to that empowered place first. Then I say, take this energy and go talk to your spouse. So a lot of times it's just trust that's coming up. And if we're willing to dig deep and have that conversation and acknowledge how far they've come, really like getting curious, what do they want to create? Why haven't they been able to do that just yet? What makes them think this program's different? What do they see themselves getting from this program? Answering those questions, the person becomes convinced in their own mind to say yes. So it's an empowered conversation. You're not convincing them. You're asking questions. They're answering the questions themselves from their own heart. And they're understanding, okay, this is what I need. This is what I want. So the last thing I wanted to talk about today was the step that people skip the most in sales. And it's actually asking for the sale. A lot of times we get this place where we're like, well, I've told them my offer. I've told them what's included. I've told them the price, right? And once you say the price, I hope you know, then you have to be quiet. Zip it, as we tell my 4-year-old nephew. Zip it, right? Because once we tell them the price, their mind is thinking. And we make up this story in our head that they're, oh my gosh, they must hate me. They think it's really expensive. Oh my gosh, not at all what's happening. They're just thinking. They're processing that price point. Have they spent that money before? Where is it? Do they have access to it? Could they go get it somewhere? What's their spouse going to say? Those are the things. And we don't want to interrupt that flow of thought, right? So we wait and we wait and we wait until they break the silence with whatever they're going to say next. It's likely an objection of some sort or a question. Okay, so then we've navigated, as we have through this whole presentation, how to navigate that conversation, how to overcome those objections. And then you want to bring it back in by asking, so, are you ready to get started? It invites them to make the decision after having this very heart-centered conversation in which you were a leader and you helped them feel much more empowered about their past experiences, about the decisions that they've made, about where they are today, and what is possible for them. Now we're asking again, are you ready to get started? So I'm going to check in with the chat, and I knew if I did that, then I would lose my train of thought of all that I wanted to cover here today. But I truly want you to understand that you can be that sales superstar if you, number one, choose it, like really choose to step into that role as a business owner, because a business owner without sales is a hobbyist. And if you're here, you want to be putting yourself on broadcast. You want to figure out how to use video, right, to get more conversions. And so we don't want you to get to that step of having a lot of people following you and loving what you're doing. And then they're like, how can I work with you? And you're like, oh crap, now I have to have a sales conversation. But let me tell you, I just sold a $30,000 package the other day in my own business. It's not like they're going to click on the button on my website and spend $30,000 without a conversation. And so you cannot shy away from these conversations. Yeah. All right. So let me just see if there's any questions in the chat, just pop them in there. Thanks so much. Amy, I'm so glad you're here with me. Thank you. And Lacey and Marie Claudine, I'm glad you made it. Let's see. So what works for men doesn't work for women. Boom. Yes. It is so fascinating. It's like I know for the longest time, and I don't mean to come off sexist, but I wouldn't buy a sales program or a book written by a man. I just was like, I've had enough of those. Tell me how to sell like a woman. In fact, I think that there is a book out there called Sell Like a Girl. And you know what? I don't like being called a girl. So that didn't land for me either. But truly, you can sell like a woman and do it very well. So where do you find high-level people to buy your premium packages? Ooh, I love this question. I love this question. So I really am known for teaching high-ticket sales and how to get how to create a high-ticket offer. And it all stems from the offer itself. So when you know the offer that you're making and it's a premium priced offer, then you want to map that client journey, the buyer journey, from the offer itself. So too often it's this disjointed, oh yeah, I've got a free gift. Yep, that's on my website. That's how I collect email addresses. Great. Is it in any way related to your high ticket item? No. Right? Or does it create a gap? Does it create a want? If they're going to download your free gift and you have to have this element of, now that you learned X, you need to know Y. X and the letter Y. Now that you learned A, you need to, you now need to learn B, right? Inherent in every solution is a new problem. So people forget to draw the lines for people. So it's like, oh yeah, I've got a free gift on my website. But if it's not leading to the sale, then your free gift is attracting the wrong kind of buyer. Does that make sense? And so like, oh, I'm going to give away a free recipe. Well, that's great. But people that are looking for free recipes might not be the same people that would be willing to spend thousands of dollars on their health. So what do those people need? And then what free gift can I create for those people that want to spend thousands of dollars on their health because their health matters so much, they want to get it back? What free gift can I create that leads people to that? So it's truly the marketing and the messaging that you put out there should all be based on your premium offer, if that's in fact what you're trying to sell. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so Marie Claudine says they're interested in what I'm selling. Okay, but there's a lack of trust. So if there's a lack of trust that you're seeing, then that means that you're not sharing enough success stories. You might not be sharing enough testimonials, and you might not be positioning yourself in your videos or in any of your marketing. And so anytime you have a client that had a win, you don't have to call them out by name. You can keep it anonymous, but be like, boom, I had a client win today. Somebody just made $40,000 this month alone. Heck yes, right? Like that's what does Katie do that got her clients that result? So I think a lot of times, again, as women, we shy away from boasting. And that is why people lack trust in what we offer. So you've got to build the muscle of how awesome you are and get it out there and talk about your awesomeness in that way. All right, thank you. Oh, good. I'm glad this is wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, what is in alignment means? I hear many people use this in business and I don't understand what it means. Okay, great question. Woo, so fun. All right. When something feels icky in our body, it is not aligned, right? I got sales training from somebody. He taught me this, and I don't mean any offense if you do this, because again, what's aligned for me may not be aligned for you and vice versa. But here's an example of what didn't feel aligned to me. The training was, we're on a sales conversation. I taught you to say, so are you ready to get started? As we're bringing it back to the sale, we've overcome the objections and now we're back to the sale. I say, are you ready to get started? His advice to me was to say, so which credit card would you like to use? The minute he told me that, my whole body was like, I am not asking that. That is so presumptuous and it's just not aligned with me and how I want to show up in sales. So that's what we mean by alignment, is like you can feel it in your body. And that's, I think, what a superpower, it's a woman superpower, right? It's the intuition that we feel. We can feel in our body instantaneously. How does this person make me feel? How does that comment make me feel? How does the program make me feel, right? And so that's alignment, when we feel, yeah, okay, that feels good in my body. Not to be confused with fear-based, eek, like if you're going to go live for your first time and then you say, oh, Katie, I wasn't aligned with that because it didn't feel good in my body. No, different, right? So we've got to identify, okay, when are we up against a comfort zone edge, right? So that in that sense, the fear is the excitement without the breath. And that's different than, that doesn't feel good to me, right? Now, an obvious one would be lacking integrity. Say, for example, you were on my sales team and I was like, just tell them whatever they need to hear and make the sale. Just, it's fine. You can lie, right? Like, obviously that lacks integrity and that's likely not aligned with you. So that's what we mean by that alignment. It's just like, does it feel good in your heart? Yeah. All right, so let's see. Don't assume your money story is their money story. Awesome. I'm just quickly going through here. Storytelling. How do you select a story to tell? Okay, so I love this question. I know I keep saying that, but you're asking really great questions. Marie Claudine, thank you. I did a live on this in this group, actually, but a while back. But anyway, go binge watch some of my lives because I did do this. It was all about how to position yourself. And the best thing you can do is take the time, like as if it's a homework assignment for yourself, to think about stories ahead of time that teach a point. And so you might say, like, I have a spreadsheet and I'm like, okay, do I have any stories about people telling me they don't have time? Do I have any stories about people telling me they can't afford it? What stories do I have in myself where I've spent an enormous amount of money when I'm asking somebody else for a lot of money? What are some stories that I can say, I get it. I was the same way. I didn't have 30K either, right? And this is what I did. So it's great if we can tell personal stories, but definitely it's best as well to tell the stories of other people. Sometimes if you don't have any stories yet, you can tell stories that you heard otherwise. So you could say, I heard this story about this woman, Marie, and Marie had da-da-da happen. Right? So we're not lying. We're not saying that Marie was your client, but you're using that story as an example. But definitely take the time to collect stories. Make a chart that address all the different stories of the objections, as well as a chart that addresses stories of your teaching points. And so if, Carrie's talking about you've got to get yourself on video, you can be darn sure Carrie's got stories of people that boomed their business when they got on video. So she's saying, don't take my word for it. Listen to the story of this person. So definitely be collecting stories as best as you can. All right, so I do know it's Valentine's Day, and for folks on the East Coast, it is getting late and you are maybe ready for dinner. So I'm going to wrap this up. But I just want to say thank you so much for being here and for really being here for this entire week, because, Carrie and our whole team, our intention was so much to serve you and support you and give you the right feedback that you needed to feel confident and to be able to convert more of the efforts you're putting in there. We don't want you to waste your time doing things that aren't bringing you sales. And so even if you're somebody that's like, yeah, I've done that, right? Oh, I've got a free gift. Oh, I've got, I'm doing lives once a week, or, I've got a Facebook group and I'm doing things in there. That's great. And our purpose of this week was to show you that you could broadcast yourself in so many other places. And so if you're thinking about broadcast your brilliance, I just am in love with that word. And I'm participating in the program myself. So I'm telling you from my heart that it gives you the confidence that you need to actually broadcast yourself so that you can get out of the small arena that you've been playing in that's been comfortable up until now. And maybe it even stretched you from the beginning, but you're at a place, because you're here, you're at a place where you are ready to go boom. And we can't do it alone. We just can't, right? It's like the self-leadership in us, the accountability. Right? There's a reason why we hire coaches and personal trainers because when it's uncomfortable, we don't want to do it. We resist it, and we might do it kind of half-assed. But when we're in a group, and let me tell you, this happens for me, I'm sure it happens for you. When you're in a group and somebody does their homework and posts it and you haven't, and you're like, okay, I better get on that. You start to see like, oh, if I wasn't in this group, I would have blown this off. But because I'm in this group and, Sally did it, now I'm like, that competitive part of me is like, I got to get in there and do it too. Or I see Elizabeth's feedback on someone's video and I'm like, I'm missing out because I'm not doing it. Right? So there's so much waiting for you. And if you have loved this team as much as I do, and as much as, Amy and Lacey and Kelly and Elizabeth and Carrie and everybody that supports us loves our team because we're so committed to you. And we're so committed to showing up with 100% heart and alignment and energy that just makes you feel excited about putting yourself out there because your people need you. They need you. They need that transformation. Whatever you're selling, insurance, a new home, coaching, they need it. They need it. And they're waiting for you to show up and you're still going, I'm open for business. Right? And that's not working anymore. And it may have gotten you to where you are, but it's not going to get you here. So if you're feeling like, all right, this is now what I'm ready for, even if you said, nope, can't afford it. Nope, not the right time. Even if you said that, after hearing this, I want you to take yourself through your own sales conversation and ask yourself, is there fear underneath that? Is that a smoke screen that allowed me to back off and go right back to my comfort zone? Because if I don't have to buy it, I don't have to change. Because I know that that's not ultimately what you want. So I just encourage you, if you haven't booked a call because you're thinking, oh, all they're going to do is try and sell me something and I just know I can't afford it. I'm calling you out and I'm telling you, you're wrong. And you're missing out on a transformational conversation with a coach that can help you pivot something. In 15 to 30 minutes with us, we can help you pivot one thing, whether or not you say yes to the program. We want you to walk away from this week feeling like, I know my next step and I'm going to do it. I'm going to see this blind spot that someone else had to show me, because that's why we call it a blind spot. You can't see it. So if you've been resisting booking a call with one of us, you're missing a grand opportunity. And it breaks my heart. So if you're like, oh, I haven't messaged her back yet, message me back. And let's get on a call because I'm offering that to you. That is our gift. That is our gift. And we are not here to convince you of anything that is not a good fit for you. We are here to help you exponentially grow, broadcast, in whatever that means for you. So thank you so much for being here. Happy Valentine's Day from my heart to yours. I just give you so much love. I hope you can feel the love of our team and know that we are just 100% on your side. 100%. All right. So meet us halfway, book a call. Let's get on the phone and just help you get a pivot of some sort, right? Some sort of transformation so that you walk away next week saying, yes, I know exactly what I need to do next. All right. So I will talk to you very soon. Have a great, great rest of your weekend. We will be back here tomorrow. Elizabeth Walker going live at 11 a.m. Pacific time, teaching about the 5 types of videos. You do not want to miss this session because if you're somebody that's been asking, what do I talk about? You may have gotten through this week and you're like, yeah, but I can't do that same kind of video over and over and over. Hi, this is me and this is what I do. Then get yourself to that session and understand what are the 5 types of videos that Carrie recommends and how to do each one so that your content is always kind of flowing and not boring. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you soon. Bye.